Welcome to COMET Compuserve Private Limited, e-learning program of implementing and administering network technologies. We are going to see about understanding basics of router. So router is a basic networking component and it is a layer 3 device. We have 7 layers in OSI layer model and this device works in the network layer, which is third layer. So it is called as a layer 3 device and it can work in both LAN as well as WAN. So we can use it for small networks as well as large network. So whenever we have different types of network available and we wanted to interconnect both of them, definitely we need a router, a routing device. So nowadays you have L3 switches and which can act as a router. So when you have more number of VLANs and you want to go for a routing between the VLANs, so you wanted to reduce the workload of a router, so we go for a layer 3 switches which can perform a kind of job like a router and perform like a layer 2 device as a switch. So that is a L3 switch we call it as. And router, it has routing tables and it is getting periodically refreshed according to the changes in the network. So whenever there is a change happens, when it is getting updated in the next cycle itself. So the change will be immediately reflecting in the system. So I'm adding one network or two network in the remote end. So my network, my router has to learn that particular network so that I can transmit the packet immediately to the destination machine or destination network. So it should reflect immediately. That is the behavioral requirement. So this router has the intelligency that it can send and receive the informations as early as possible. So any information added, removed, that will get easily updated in the routing table. Like switches maintain a switching table, routers are maintaining a routing table in the device. So it is helping us to find out where is the destination network and send out the packets quickly as possible. So, so it is providing a protection against broadcast storms. So it won't broadcast it. Suppose if the network details are not available in the routing table, it will directly give it to the second router, which is connected to it directly, and it will also search for it. Likewise, it will go. It will not go for a broadcasting. And other major drawback or it is practically available, so we cannot ignore or we cannot avoid it. It is costlier compared to other interconnecting devices. We would have seen different types of interconnecting devices in the earlier sessions. So like hub, bridge, switches, those are all used for a small range of network or in the olden days. But now when we get expand globally or internationally or as a campus area network in a larger way, then we need to upgrade our devices. Definitely cost is involved, so we have to go for it. And we have different types of manufacturers available in routers, but worldwide we have famous organization called Cisco. Most of the organizations, corporate companies, enterprise network are lies with Cisco devices. We have Cisco network routers, or switches, and firewalls. So Cisco is playing a major role in the enterprise infrastructure, network infrastructure. So we are getting good support from them, and as well as the component wise, it is good and provides a best life and it withstands kind of load also. So we prefer normally to go with the router. But some of the middle level organization or lower level organizations, they cannot expend that much amount. They will not have budget also. So what they can do is they can go for other type of router. So if your functionality is just routing the packets or connecting to different networks, go with the next level of routers like D-Link router or Juniper routers, whatever it is. So you are going to get the benefit out of it. But the enterprise network, most of the organization have gone with the Cisco, and because the main thing is the support what they are providing for any issues, how they jump into the P1 calls, how they provide MIM support, and and the device wise the life of the device, right? So normally the organizations like SEZ organizations has limitations like within 5 years of time we have to replace the hardware component before that comes as a end of support or end of service. So even then it has end of support time, end of life time, and if it has crossed the 5 years of installation date, and obviously, as per the customs or SEZ requirement, we have to remove the device from the network and exchange it with the latest device, which is newly manufactured, right? So that is as per the SEZ norms. But till that 5 years, if you see, you will not get that much problems with the Cisco devices. And we'll get on-site support based on the support model you are getting, right? You have golden support, platinum support. Based on the support model you are getting and number of devices you are using from Cisco, you'll get a site support engineer dedicated so that any issues you can directly log into the device and get the issue verified and get the parts replacement request raised immediately. Otherwise, we have to raise a ticket with Cisco and then they will ask for some of the logs. We have to share the logs and then they'll validate it is because of the hardware failure. Then once it is confirmed only, they will give approval for raising the hardware request. Otherwise, you cannot raise a request. If you have on-site engineer, so he himself will do all the diagnosis, verify it, and it is not a fault from the engineer or the conditions of the data center. So it is a fault from the hardware. So he will immediately raise. So at least I can save 24 hours of time if I have an on-site engineer. So that is from the supports perspective. Router components. So like your laptop, desktop, server, you have same or kind of miniatured components in the router also. So we have processor, ROM, RAM, NVRAM, flash memory, boot image like an operating system, interfaces like network card, whatever it is, buses, power supply, and configuration register. So what is a CPU? So like a computer CPU, this has also got a CPU, which is the main component in the router, and going to perform all kind of functionalities from the CPU side. ROM is normally used for maintaining the one-time informations like power on self-test. So it is not writable again, right? So it is one-time writable. And the codes like power on self-test, the script program will be stored in the ROM. So whenever the device is getting powered on, like it is checking for the desktop or laptop or server, it is checking for the router also. It will check whether all the interfaces are working fine, whether the router's other conditions are fine. So after that only it will allow you to enter into the prompts, command prompt. Otherwise it will not. DRAM, it is used for storing the details, and you know this is a volatile memory, and you cannot keep the memory permanently, right? So as long as the system is getting the power, you will get the DRAM stored in the, I mean, the data is stored in the DRAM. Otherwise, the data will get vanished. So the name of the data, name of the configuration is running configuration. So in routers, we have two types of configurations. One is the running configuration and other is a startup configuration. So by the name, we can understand, right? Startup configuration is always used for starting the router. Once the operating system is loaded, it has to get the configuration details and it'll get loaded then. So only with the iOS you cannot do anything. We need to have specific device level configurations. So once the IO is loaded into the memory, the DRAM will furnish the running configuration details to, I mean, uh, to the uh, memory. So we'll get that configured. So this running configuration is used as a temporary only, but if you want to make it as a permanent, so we have to copy the data to the startup configuration. So while booting, it will refer only the startup configuration, not the running configuration, because running configuration is available only when the router is running. Okay. DRAM is used for storing the running configurations in the router. It means whatever the details are running in the router, like configuration files, passwords, whatever commands we are typing, that will be stored in the running configurations. So it will be referring for any latest configuration changes. But DRAM is a volatile memory. So once the power goes off, automatically the data inside the running configuration will also get deleted because it is a temporary storage. But anyway, in the real time, we'll have a primary UPS, backup UPS, router will have two SMPS, and we have backup power supply for UPS as a genset backup. So all the planning is there for running the router continuously. But still, so we need to have the configuration stored in the permanent place. So we store the configurations in the NVRAM. NVRAM is again a volatile memory, but what we are going to do is we are going to provide a power supply so that it becomes a non-volatile, that is NVRAM. So both the RAMs are same, but I'm not going to provide power for DRAM, whereas for NVRAM I'm going to power by using a battery so that I can refer the configurations always whenever we boot, like you store a CMOS configurations in the CMOS IC apart from the BIOS, right? So NVRAM is used for storing the startup configuration details. And whenever the router boots, so it will be loading the iOS operating system first, and then it will be referring the configuration detail from startup configuration file. So if you fail to copy the content from running configuration to startup configuration, whatever you have done, those things will be lost. So that copy command is a very mandatory one for all the required operations before shutdown or restart or going for any maintenance activity. Next is a flash memory. So this is the place where we store Cisco iOS image, like our operating system, Windows 10 or Linux. Cisco is storing the file as iOS image file. It will be in the binary format, and this is being stored in the EEPROM flash memory, or we call it as a EEPROM, electrically erasable program read-only memory. So you can flash it whenever you have a change in the iOS. So the version is fixed. The firmware is fixed by Cisco corporate organizations. And if there is any change in version, upgrade in version, they will release. So probably after testing, we have to update or flash our memory so that it will have new iOS installed in the router. Okay, so that is how we go for upgrading the details, and it will get added to a existing file. So anytime I can refer what was my old file and what is my new file for booting. Okay, that is still for storing the iOS image file. RX boot image. This is the cut down version of the iOS located in the router's RAM ROM. So this is the small bootable image. Buses, like you have address bus, data bus, all those buses. Here also we have different types of buses available. Um, System bus and CPU bus are the mostly referred buses in case of router. Interfaces, you have lot of interfaces available. Again, if you have a modular router, not a fixed router, it is a modular router, you can have n number of interfaces added or removed based on your requirement. So that flexibility we have. So we'll have to remove, we have to buy the interface and add it with the existing router so that it can support additional interfaces. So next is AUI, attachment unit interface. It is a DB15 female connector used for connecting the LAN connection with the switch. So earlier days we had a LAN using coaxial cables and all. So that time we'll have to combine both the different types of networks, right? So we gone for AUI, attachment unit interface, that will be helpful for connecting the older networks. Then auxiliary port, so aux port short form for connecting the modem. Okay, so you have ISDN modem or ISDN connection. Nowadays we are not referring anybody for ISDN because we are getting more bandwidth via our network, and as well as we maintain the DRBCP properly so that uh, we don't have any dependency with the ISDN connection. So normally you cannot see any kind of ports available in the router also. So auxiliary port is used for connecting a modem. Then serial interface. Normally you'll get two serial interface in one card, so it will be 0, S0 and S1. Further, if you want, you can add it. If it is a modular router, it will support. So this you are seeing console port RJ45. So other ports are used for remote network connections. Through network you are doing, what is it you are doing with the other interfaces. Okay, so here we have mainly console port. So console port is used for connecting your laptop or desktop from the RJ45 cable to the serial port or USB port, and you can take a control of the router device. Okay, so nobody will stop you in accessing the router. Okay, then further you have LAN interfaces, auxiliary interface you are seeing. This has got two network cards, so maybe fast Ethernet or gigabit Ethernet. Two network ports are available. LAN interface slot is provided. Apart from the middle one, LAN interface slot is for expanding the network. Maybe different network wanted different network card. So for expanding the network, we are using this. And the left hand side, you are seeing serial interfaces. In one adapter, you will get two ports. So whenever we wanted the extension of the networks, we go for a adapters through which we'll be getting it. Uses RJ45 socket and used for connecting ISDN line. The earlier one AUX is for connecting modem, and this is for ISDN line. So Ethernet port. So normally via Ethernet port, we'll be connecting the switch or a server for extending the setup. Types of router interface: fixed interface, model interface. Fixed interface means you will not have any free slots available, and we'll have to find out alternate ways to accommodate additional network. In case of modular interface, we'll be having empty slots. You can insert buy and insert whatever network is required, or serial port, additional port is required. Whatever it is, you can keep on adding it. That is the modular interface. Connecting router to a laptop. Now we are not going to discuss anything about the desktop, because we know most of the places people are getting the laptop. So we can connect the console cable through laptop directly. So one side you will have RJ45, other side you will have DB9 connector. That is a complete setup, but in olden days we used to get in a different setup. So you'll have USB port one side and DB9 port outside. So when the cable comes, it will be DB9 female connector. So this can connect with it. So the step three is you can buy nowadays it is not coming with any converter, so it is directly can be connected to the USB port. One side network port, other side USB port. This is the advantage we have with this particular device. So this is the mini or MacBook. We can use this now. It is a mini one. And we have laptop USB port, console port available for connecting different types of devices. So in case of Cisco iOS, so Cisco Internet Operating System is the kernel of Cisco routers as well as all current Catalyst switches. So operating system kernel, okay, that is the iOS. So it is normally a core, kernel is a core for the operating system where you can develop and function with the device. So whatever changes you wanted, you can make it. So that is the uh, uh, Cisco iOS kernel. And first iOS was written by William Yeager in 1985 and enabled networked applications. It turns on most Cisco routers as well as growing number of Cisco Catalyst switches like Catalyst 2960 switch. So Cisco device, any device you take, it will have a iOS available. So we can go with upgrading the iOS. If there is any new version available, we can check with cisco.com, and if they are permitting, then we can allow install the iOS in our router. Some important things that the Cisco router iOS software is responsible for. What is that the iOS software is doing? Carrying network protocols and functions, connecting high-speed traffic between the devices, adding security to control access, so providing scalability for ease. So whatever we notice, right? So those things they are going to take care of it. So you can access the Cisco iOS through a console port of a router or a switch, or from a modem into the auxiliary port. So accessing the device is very simple. From anywhere, any point, you can access this. Access to the iOS command line is called as execute session. So you wanted to access anything in a command mode, you can use the exe session. We have different types of mode available. Setup mode. Um, so when you start the router, without no configuration, right? Once you bought it from the market, so you connect the router. So what you need to do? So it will be booting normally. So what we have to do? We have to do a initial basic setup. So in that you have when the router is loading, right, it will prompt you. Basic management step is prompting you like the details available, whether uh, you wanted to provide now. So it will ask for a question. We have to provide answer. Okay. So you can just keep answering the questions till that ends, right? So after that, if you are changing anything, it will not work. In case of extended setup, this is configured in all the interface available in the router. You can also configure and enter by typing setup command in global configuration mode. So if you have already gone to the particular option, still you want to see the setup, right? So you can just type the setup command and you can find what is the configuration going on. So there are two modes: basic management mode, extended setup. Modes of operations. There are four modes available in the system. One is the user execute mode. So you're seeing, right, once you log into the router, you will get router as a command prompt, right? So because the host name will take the default it will take the names as like this. Okay, router will take router, switch will take switch. We cannot stop it, but we can change the name. It is not like permanent name, so we can change the name, and that we'll have a separate session to make the modifications. Okay, so first one is the user execute mode. How can you find out if it is in greater than symbol? Okay, and we can just mention it. It is a user execute mode. And what about the second mode? It is a privilege mode. From first mode to second mode, we can move. So you'll have to press enable. You have to type the command enable so that you can get into the privilege mode. So the difference between a basic mode and privilege mode is normally in Citrix or any other environment, if you take, we'll have to follow different standards. But here, in case of privilege mode, we'll have to go for enable password. So that is a command used for moving from one level to other level. If you want to come reverse, right? If you type exit from that enable option, after enable option, you'll come out of the switch or router. Okay. In case of router, if I type only disable, I'll come back to user execute mode from the privilege mode. Okay. Third is a global configuration mode. So this is the mode where we'll be performing the overall configurations. So whatever it is required for router, we'll be doing all these configurations in this particular mode. So you can see the symbol as hash and the config. That word is along with the router name, host name. Subconfiguration mode, something you wanted to do for your interfaces, maybe a Ethernet interface or serial interface, whatever I have configured here. So it is Ethernet interface. So you can just get into the sub-configuration mode. From that mode only you can come to sub-configuration mode. So initially you see user execute mode, then privilege mode. So after doing some of the things, we are coming to the global configuration mode. So from GC, you wanted to go to sub-configuration mode. Yes, we can go with the help of a command. So here, interface related informations, we can do it. Anything like IP address, anything like the decryption values, all those things we can do a change here. Maintenance, we are getting two modes, RX boot, where we'll be loading the mini iOS. At least you'll get the booting option. Second is ROM monitor mode. This is used for maintenance option. We can create a fresh configuration for a router. Normally, this is used for breaking passwords if we forget it. So we can use this mode like whenever we forget the password of a router, we can use this mode to unlock it. Built-in facility. Um, you have question mark and you have a tab. So that is giving you options like supporting you or making your entries as faster. So here, question mark, if you type a question mark, you will get the commands available. What are the things we can do in this particular mode? That is the help of question mark. Tab is giving you auto filling. So once you type half of the command and press tab, it will get filled up automatically. The third one is show command. So there are list of show commands available. I'll show you in the live session. So by typing the command show, it is going to show the output for all these devices, whatever you are going to list it out. And commonly used commands are show running configuration and store startup configurations. Error messages, you will get three types of error messages. One is incomplete command. You can easily understand that this is available because of your incompleteness, okay? Because you are not providing the command completely, it will not work. And ambiguous command is um, ambiguous command is we are not fulfilling the requirement. So the command itself is wrong. So maybe the router is not correct. So that may be working for a different router. For this router, this command is not working. That is ambiguous. Third is invalid input directed. So here you see uh, caret symbol. So that symbol will be displaying in the screen. So you can find out that you have typed some of the invalid characters, not a correct one. These are the error message. Now we'll move on to the live session, which is a recorded one, but it is taken from practical session. So we are now going to configure router with the basic commands. Okay. So as if you are buying a router from the market, what you have to do. So that is the basic configurations. Routers or switches, it will have its own name as a default name. So if you are having 5 routers in a group, so don't have the default name as a router. Try to have some other names as per the standard. Okay, otherwise no, it will get confused which router it is. Modes of operation. Now you are in the privilege user execute mode because you are seeing the greater than symbol. So it is a user execute mode. So users can do anything like they can run minimum commands. They are not allowed to do even copy is not allowed. Okay, so that is minimum restrictions you are getting from this command. So next is the privilege mode. So the command use this enable command. Now we are in the privilege mode. So we are running the command called enable command. So to come back to privilege mode, to come back to normal execute mode from privilege mode, you can type disable. Okay, you are seeing the command, right? So as like you typed enable and got into the next option, you can type disable and come back to the original option. So now we are entering into global configuration mode. So where you can see now it is privilege mode. It is in the privilege mode. Now we are trying to configure global configuration mode. So the command uses configure terminal. From the privilege mode, you have to use the command. You can also use the short forms conf t, conft, okay, config t. So it will understand because it has a auto filling feature. So I'm entering into the interface mode. Um, that interface name is a wrong name. It is saying invalid interface because that interface is not available. So the right interface is S0/3/0. So copying the commands running on configuration to the startup configuration. So show running configuration, show command, we can get all the options available, the details, whether it is running or configuration or startup configuration, it will be same in the initial stage. But slowly, whenever you type the commands, running configuration will get added up. And finally, we have to copy the commands. So by typing the question mark, we are seeing the number of commands available. That is just for reference purpose. Whatever commands you wanted to use, you can use it. So show flash gives the complete details about the flash memory, the iOS details. So show, if I don't type anything, it says incomplete command. So it says invalid input. These are all the helping commands, okay? So by seeing the error message, don't think that we are going wrong, but it says that you have made a mistake in command. So we'll have to correct that commands. So indirectly, it is Cisco is providing the help in correcting the commands by ourselves. Okay. So the live session is completed. So we have come to the end of a topic, the router basics. Hope this has given you a clear idea about how to configure the router when we purchase as fresh from the market. We have further configuration details available, but now this is only a basic things on the router side. Thank you very much.